What am I even doing here? Hi everyone, my name is Heather. I am H.N. Otkin, just a writer and reader of fiction. I have 4 short stories published in some anthologies that were done by some local publishing press thing. I'll talk about it later, but anyway, I figured as my first ever video on this channel as a writing channel, I would do some kind of introductory questions so that y'all can get to know me better, and definitely comment down below any answers that you want to put so that I can get to know you better as well. Or maybe if you have an introductory video of your own, link that below so that I can go and view that. And sorry, my cat was sneezing all over my knee here, so that I can go and view that and get to know you better. I just want to network and get to know people who are not necessarily like-minded but have similar interests, such as writing and reading and genres and all that kind of stuff. So I did write down my questions and my answers in this nifty little soft cover lined 200-page notebook that I designed. Links to my Amazon shop for these will be down below. I come out with new designs all the time, so if you don't see something you like, check back later. So the first question is, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a writer? And the first time I ever realized that I actually wanted to be a writer was in 2nd grade. My teacher, Mrs. Girardi, had us doing different activities around the room, and one of those activities was a kind of a spinning wheel with sentences that the arrow could land on. And you had to take the sentence that the arrow landed on for you, write it down, and then write a story from that sentence. So kind of like a writing prompt, I guess it was, but that's, not what I recognized it as back then. So me and my friend, I think her name was Jessica. I don't know. I don't still talk to her. I don't know where she is. But me and my friend Jessica wrote down this sentence, and we together wrote and illustrated a story. And I think I still have that somewhere. Not with me, otherwise I would show you guys. And that just was like magical to me, just being able to create this whole person and this whole world from a single sentence. And from then on, it was like, that's all I did during my summers and in my free time, was just write, and sometimes illustrate, but that never really went anywhere. Meet Bug. He's gonna make appearances in many of my videos. He's my youngest boy, and he is affectionate, and he really hates it when I talk to myself. Even when I'm working, I work from home, even when I'm working and I have to answer the phone, he will be across the house and it will be silent for 30 minutes. The phone will ring, I'll start talking to a patient, and he will come running and just get in my face and try to knock the phone out of my hands. And if I close the door to my office, it's even worse, because then he's crying and scratching at the door, and that's even noisier. So anyway, I digress. The second question is, how long does it take you to write a book? So I've only actually written 2 full novels. Neither of them are published. He's chewing on some stuff, junk that's out of camera over there. But the first novel took me about 10 years to totally finish, just because I was writing about such dark subject matter, and it took a lot of life experience to make it worth reading or well written. Not that it's actually well written at the moment, but it's way better now than it was when I was 18. The second book I wrote, I started kind of in my early to mid 20s, and that only took about 19 months. I wrote that during the time that I was in trade school. I would write on my breaks and in between classes, and sometimes during classes. Which is what I did in high school too. But so it just depends on how motivated I am and how inspired I am. I went through a whole phase where I wasn't writing at all for years, and that was a whole nother story. But so the next question is, what is an interesting writer quirk that you have? I don't know. I think this isn't really, it might be a quirk, but I don't think it's that uncommon. But when I'm writing a very first draft, I prefer to write on pen on paper, just because if I try to write a first draft on a Word document on the computer, I just get blocked up immediately. I'll write a paragraph and be like, I don't know where I want this to go. Whereas if I'm writing with pen on paper, it's slow enough that it gives me time to really develop in my head where I'm going, what I want to do with my story and my characters as I'm writing. That doesn't mean that I don't get writer's block when I'm writing by hand. It just, I don't know, it just helps my creative juices a lot more. And it might be because writing by hand is slower than typing for me. I type at about 89 to 90 words per minute. And that's actually why I started designing these journal covers, because I know I'm not the only one that likes to write with pen on paper. So if you're interested, there are 200 lined front and back pages, journals, soft cover. They're awesome. There are a few blank pages. There was a production error, but whatever. Okay, next question. When did you write your first book and how old were you? So the very first book I ever wrote was in the summer between 2nd and 3rd grade. I used some pink scrap paper that my parents had laying around. I think it was from a school. I don't know, there were some like newsletters or something, and the back sides of them were blank. And I wrote an entire series of the adventures of Sparkles the dolphin. I even illustrated them. I didn't color them. It was just like with a, number 2 pencil. I still have some of those. They're in my house right now. They're boxed up somewhere, but I have them. But the actual first novel I ever wrote, I started writing in December of senior year. I had broken up with my boyfriend I'd been dating for 2 years. It was a bad breakup. It was a bad relationship. I was on the outs with my friends. I needed an outlet, and so that's when I started my first novel. Everything else I'd written between 2nd and 12th grade was just like for fun, kind of creative writing, learning my style, learning my process. I wasn't really serious about any of them. It was just fun. It was a fun escape. And so the novel that I'm actually currently rewriting for the last time, I started December of my senior year, so it would have been December of 2006. Next question is, what do you like to do when you're not writing? So I actually have a lot of different hobbies. I shouldn't say a lot. I have a handful of different hobbies, including binge watching television. I love the oldies and the goodies like The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Those are the ones I obsessively rewatch over and over again, like your stereotypical millennial. But then I also really like finding new shows, and I am very drawn to crime shows or action. There's got to be action. I'm really picky about my crime shows. So I really liked Criminal Minds up until a point, and then I stopped watching. I was into SWAT for a while, and I kind of stopped watching that because it got too political and social justice-y without actually braiding it into the story well. So it was very in your face, and I don't like that. If you have a message, write it well. I don't care what your message is. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to disagree with it, but if it's written well, I will respond positively to your story and your show. It wasn't written well. The other show I'm really, really into right now is SEAL Team. It is one of the best shows I have watched in a really long time. It's really good. Anyway, so my other hobbies are I crochet. So I have a huge stack of yarn just off camera right here. It's a total mess, but I do crochet. I actually have a entirely separate channel for that. Obviously, I read. All those books, I read. I actually have another bookshelf upstairs, and I have more books packed in boxes in the basement and in the spare room. And I have more books on my bookshelf in my office. So the other thing I do is paint. So all these paintings you see up here, I've done at a sip and paint place. This one I did with my mom and my mother-in-law on Mother's Day. This one was just for fun. I kind of, you can't see it from this distance, but I did make it into a Hunger Games themed painting. I put a quote from Katniss's song that she sings, and then this one is the Colorado Sea, and it's like an autumn sunset themed. I love it. It's my absolute favorite painting I've done, other than maybe my Harry Potter one, but there's all kinds of my paintings around here. I've done some Star Wars ones, whatever. So what else? Lately I've been making bar soap. I mean, I fell down the royalty soaps rabbit hole. If you guys haven't seen those, what are you doing with your life? I fell down that rabbit hole and I decided I can make soap too. And so I made an oatmeal and citrus soap. It was very basic. It didn't really turn out the way I wanted. The oatmeal was really just not ground down enough, and the citrus didn't really come out that well in the soap. But I bought more soap making supplies. I bought some rose clay and some rose fragrance and some roses, and the next bar soap I make is gonna be rose themed, obviously. But I just give it away to friends and family because it makes a lot of bars. It really makes a ton of bars. So I don't sell it because I'm just not, that's not gonna happen. That's all my hobbies I can think about, really. And then, what is the most surprising thing you've learned from writing? So I took this as it could either be on the business end of writing, or it could be something you've learned while researching for your novel. So I have two answers to this. On the business end, I actually learned this recently. I apologize if the camera is moving. My husband's cat is like sniffing the stand. Anyway, I learned this recently is that even if you're planning on querying agents for traditional publishing, you have to establish a following on social media, which is why I'm making this video. So I was under the impression that they did everything. You signed your rights away basically, and they edit, they cover design, they market, they sell your book. Apparently that's not actually true. And if you know something I don't know, please comment in, the comment section down below. But so I've taken it upon myself to make a website. I've made a Twitter, I've made an Instagram, I've made a Facebook, and now I have a YouTube. And go follow me everywhere is basically what I'm saying. Anyway, on the writing research end of things, I have learned, I don't know if this would be surprising, but definitely the most interesting thing I've researched is nuclear energy. I did this for my other novel that took 19 months to write. I had to research the effects of nuclear radiation, sickness, the amount of time it takes for if there's a spill or a plant explodes, the amount of time it takes for that to kind of go away, how it affects the environment, how it affects the soil. The other thing I researched that was really interesting is what would happen to the world if humans just poof, disappeared. And that led me to the meltdown of nuclear reactors because there'd be no one to man them. And even though they have fail-safes, there still have to be people there to man the plants. And so the fail-safes may get the nuclear plants through for about a month, but after that point, the water will evaporate because there's no one there to refill it, and then the meltdown will start. So that's probably the craziest thing I ever learned, was that a nuclear plant, most nuclear plants can go about a month without people actually being there, and if all is working perfectly and people disappear, it'll last about a month before nuclear meltdown. All right, next question is, how many books have you written and what is your favorite? So again, I've written 2 books. My favorite is probably the one that's taken a long ass time to write. The working title is Horrors Within, and for some reason, I feel this real deep connection to my characters. And I know that's cliche, every writer says that, but it's just because I've been working on it so long. I've made so many changes, and it's just, my characters have developed so much over the years that I hold them in my heart. I don't know how to explain it. They're my fictional children, basically, at this point, even though when I started writing the story, all my characters were older than me at that point, and now that I'm rewriting it, all my characters are like 10 years younger than me. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I just have a connection to them. I feel for them. I feel for what I put them through. My heart breaks for what I put them through. And yeah, that's probably my favorite story, just because I connect so deeply with those characters. Do you like to create books for adults? So yes, I actually prefer writing adult novels because there is pretty much you can do almost anything. Whereas if you write young adult or teen fiction or children's books, you have to be really careful about the messages that you put through your writing. I mean, you still have to be careful with your messages through adult fiction, but you can have more graphic scenes, you can have more explicit language, and you still have to be careful with the way you craft it, but there's just not as much censorship, I guess is what I'm trying to say. As a child, what did you want to do when you grew up? So in first grade, I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. I thought that I was obsessed with dolphins up until I was, I don't know, 19 or 20. I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. And then after the whole writing prompt exercise in second grade, from then on, I knew I wanted to be an author. I'm 32 years old and it still hasn't happened, not really. So that's why I'm here. That's why you're watching this video, because I want to make that happen. So one more question. Does writing energize or exhaust you? So the answer to that is yes. I get into these inspirational moods. I have this whole process, which I can go into depth in a different movie, but I have this whole process where I listen to music or I go through artistic, emotional photos on Pinterest, or, you know, I have whole Pinterest boards where I pin pictures of people that look like my characters or are exhibiting the mood or the emotion of my characters in certain scenes. So I have certain ways of getting those creative juices flowing, and I get to a point where I will, like this past weekend, it was a 3-day weekend. It was Memorial weekend, right? I wrote all day, every day, all 3 days. I took a few breaks here and there just to give my brain a break, because some of the scenes in this novel are really emotionally exhausting. And I have to take a step back and breathe and be like, it's fake. It's not real. Everything's okay. No one just died or no one just got hurt. Like, but there are, on that same note, there are times where I do get, like I just said, emotionally exhausted because I'm so invested in the story and the characters, and I put them through so much shit, I'm just gonna say it, that I do have to take a step back. And sometimes it's just for a few minutes, sometimes it's for a few hours, sometimes when I hit a certain point in the story, I have to go away for a few days to a week, because it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, which it worries me, because as a reader, are they, even if they're invested in the story, are they going to put the book down at that point and it's going to be put into a did not finish pile? But again, another subject for another video. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoyed getting to know me. I would love to get to know you. So if you do a video similar to this, or if you have done one, again, please link it below. I want to reach out to as many people as possible and subscribe and comment and do all those fun YouTube things. Please do that on this video as well. But that's it. Next week, I am posting a book review that I actually did a year ago on this channel, and I just revamped it. I edited it down, took out all the unnecessary information. After that, I have another book review that I have to do. Again, I read the book a while ago. I have to find it. I don't even know where it is. But after that, I'm thinking maybe we'll do some videos on writing techniques that work for me, or something like that. Again, I have a website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow me. You can find links to all of those on my website, which I will put down below. If you are interested in a soft cover 200-line page notebook, that will also be down below. Subscribe, hit the notification bell and the thumbs up on this video, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, y'all, happy writing.